My father convinced my employer I had died. My paycheck stopped. I stared at my laptop screen, refreshing my bank account for the 7th time in 10 minutes. The balance hadn't changed, $47.23. My rent was due in 3 days, and my paycheck from Morrison & Associates should have been deposited 2 days ago. There has to be a mistake, I muttered, grabbing my phone to call HR. Janet picked up on the second ring. Hi Janet, it's Alex Chen from the Portland office. I think there might be an issue with payroll, my direct deposit didn't come through. The silence stretched long enough that I checked if the call had dropped. Janet? Alex. I'm going to need to transfer you to my supervisor. My stomach dropped. Is everything okay? Please hold. The hold music felt like it lasted forever. When someone finally picked up, it was Margaret Walsh, the HR director I'd only spoken to during my hiring interview 8 months ago. Alex, this is Margaret. I need to ask you a very unusual question. Are you currently alive? I actually laughed. What kind of question is that? Of course I'm alive. I'm talking to you right now. I understand this is confusing. We received a call 3 days ago from someone claiming to be your father. He said you'd been killed in a car accident on Highway 26. He provided your full name, social security number, and date of birth as verification. He was very convincing. Very upset. We stopped your payroll immediately and began processing the paperwork to release your final check to your next of kin. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. My father called you? Yes. A Robert Chen. He knew details about your employment that suggested legitimate access to your information. He said he was handling your affairs and would be collecting your personal items from the office. Robert. My chest tightened with a familiar mixture of rage and dread. I hadn't spoken to my father in 4 months, not since I'd finally changed my phone number and blocked him on every social media platform. The last text I'd sent him was crystal clear: do not contact me again. I will not respond to any communication from you. I should have known he wouldn't accept it. Margaret, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I am not dead. I was not in any car accident. My father is lying to you. This is fraud. But he had your personal information. He's my father. Of course he has my personal information. But I am sitting in my apartment right now, very much alive, telling you that everything he said was a lie. I could hear her typing frantically in the background. This is unprecedented. I'm going to need documentation. Proof of identity. We'll need to file reports. Whatever you need. But I need my paycheck restored immediately. I'm about to be evicted because of this. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the wall. My hands were shaking. 4 months. 4 months of peace, of sleeping through the night without jumping at every phone notification, of slowly remembering what it felt like to make decisions without second-guessing how he might react. And now this. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your obituary online. So sorry for your loss. Mike from college. With trembling fingers, I opened Google and searched my name plus obituary. The first result made my blood run cold. There it was, posted on legacy.com 2 days ago. Alexander Chen, beloved son, taken too soon at age 24. He hadn't just called my employer. He declared me dead to the entire world. The obituary was worse than I could have imagined. Not just because it existed, but because of how detailed it was. How convincing it was. Alexander James Chen, 24, passed away suddenly on November 15 in a tragic automobile accident on Highway 26. Alex was a dedicated employee at Morrison & Associates and a graduate of Portland State University with a degree in marketing. He is survived by his loving father, Robert Chen, and will be remembered for his kind heart and promising future cut short. There was even a photo, my college graduation picture that I'd posted on Facebook 3 years ago, before I'd made my profile private. Before I'd learned to hide every piece of my life from him. But it was the last line that made me physically sick. In lieu of flowers, donations can be made to the Robert Chen Memorial Fund for Traffic Safety Awareness. Venmo at Robert Chen 1975. He was taking donations. People were paying him for my fake death. I screenshotted everything, my hands shaking so badly I had to try 3 times. Then I called the funeral home listed as handling arrangements. Peaceful transitions, this is Donna speaking. Hi, I'm calling about the obituary for Alexander Chen that was posted online. Oh yes, such a tragedy. Are you family? I'm Alexander Chen. The pause was even longer than Janet's had been. I'm sorry, I don't understand. I'm Alexander Chen. The person in that obituary. I'm alive. That obituary is fraudulent, and I need it removed immediately. Sir, this isn't funny. That obituary was placed by the deceased's father. I am not deceased. I shouted, then forced myself to lower my voice. I'm sorry. I know this sounds insane. But my father has been harassing me for months, and apparently when I cut contact with him, he decided to tell everyone I was dead. I can provide identification, documentation, whatever you need. It took 45 minutes on the phone and a promise to come in person with my driver's license, passport, and birth certificate before Donna agreed to temporarily remove the listing pending investigation. As I hung up, my laptop chimed with a new email. Then another. And another. Condolence messages were flooding in. College friends, former coworkers, my landlord Mrs. Martinez, even my high school chemistry teacher. The obituary had been shared on Facebook 47 times. Someone had created a memorial page with 312 members. My phone rang. Sarah Kim, my best friend from college. Alex? Oh my God, Alex, please tell me this is some sick joke. It's a joke alright, but I'm not the one telling it. Sarah, I'm fine. I'm completely fine. But your dad posted on Facebook that you were gone. He wrote this whole thing about how proud he was of you and how much he'd miss you. People have been commenting for hours. Your Aunt Linda is driving up from California for the funeral. What funeral? Saturday at 2 p.m. Riverside Methodist Church. He posted the details this morning. I pulled up Facebook on my laptop, navigating to my father's profile from Sarah's account since he blocked me months ago when I called him out publicly for lying about paying for my college tuition. There it was. A post from 6 hours ago with 89 comments and 156 reactions. It is with the heaviest heart that I announce the passing of my beloved son, Alexander. He was my pride and joy, and I don't know how I'll go on without him. The funeral will be held Saturday, November 18th at 2 p.m. at Riverside Methodist Church. Thank you all for your love and support during this impossible time. Please keep Alex in your prayers. Broken heart. The comments were devastating. People sharing memories of me, posting old photos, telling my father how sorry they were. My cousin Emma had written a paragraph about how I'd helped her with her college applications. My neighbor Mr. Peterson mentioned how I'd shoveled his driveway last winter. They were mourning me. Really, genuinely mourning me. And my father was eating up every bit of sympathy, responding to each comment with heartbroken gratitude. He'd planned a funeral. An actual funeral. For Saturday. In 2 days, people who loved me would gather to grieve my death while I sat in my apartment, very much alive, watching my father lie to their faces. I screenshot every comment, every reaction, every shared memory. Evidence. I was building a case now, not just trying to fix a payroll error. This wasn't desperation anymore, it was documentation. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello. Alex? Honey, is that really you? My Aunt Linda's voice was shaky with tears. Sarah called me, but I had to hear for myself. It's really me, Linda. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I'm 3 hours into the drive to Portland. I canceled 2 client meetings. Your father, he called me personally yesterday. He was sobbing, Alex. Actually sobbing. He told me you'd asked about me in your final moments. My stomach twisted. He said what? That when the paramedics were trying to save you, you kept saying you wished you'd stayed closer to family. That you regretted the distance between all of us. Her voice broke. It broke my heart, sweetie. I felt so guilty. The manipulation was breathtaking. Even in my fake death, he'd found a way to rewrite history. To make my intentional distance from our toxic family seem like my dying regret instead of my healthiest decision. Linda, none of that happened. I cut contact with him because he was stalking me. He's been calling my employers for months, trying to get me fired. He hired a private investigator to follow me. This is just his latest escalation. The silence stretched long enough that I thought I'd lost her. A private investigator. I have photos. License plate numbers. Text messages where he threatened to ruin my pathetic little life if I didn't answer his calls. Alex, why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you call me? Because you're his sister, I thought. Because every time I tried to explain his behavior to family, I was told I was being dramatic. That he was difficult, but he loved me. That I should be grateful to have a father who cared so much. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that he's committed fraud on a massive scale. He's collected money from people who think I'm dead. I refreshed the Venmo page. The Robert Chin Memorial Fund had grown to $847. Oh God, Linda whispered. Alex, I sent him $500 this morning. For funeral expenses. My vision actually blurred with rage. He asked family for money. He said he couldn't afford a proper service alone. That his savings were wiped out from the hospital bills and everything. Your cousin Mark sent $300. Your grandmother sent whatever was in her checking account, probably another $400. I was doing math in my head. Close to $2,000, and that was just from family. The Venmo fund was public, strangers were contributing too. People from my high school, former coworkers, neighbors who'd seen the Facebook post. I'm going to destroy him, I said quietly. Alex. No, Linda. This isn't a family squabble anymore. This is fraud. Identity theft. He filed false reports with my employer, convinced a funeral home to post fraudulent information, and he's collected thousands of dollars in donations for my fake death. This is federal crime territory. I was already pulling up the FBI's website on my laptop, looking for the internet fraud reporting system. But he's your father. He declared me dead, Linda. He planned my funeral. He's letting you all grieve for me while he counts donation money. What part of that sounds like a father to you? After we hung up, I sat staring at my reflection in my laptop screen. The person looking back at me had dark circles under their eyes and a jaw clenched tight with determination. My phone buzzed. A Facebook message from someone named Jessica Torres. I didn't know Alex well, but we worked together briefly at Morrison and Associates. I've started a GoFundMe to help his father with expenses. We're at $1,200 already. Here's the link if you'd like to contribute. He hadn't just created one fundraiser. People were creating them for him. I clicked on the GoFundMe link Jessica had sent me. The page loaded with a photo of my father looking devastated, his head in his hands, a picture that had probably been staged specifically for this purpose. Help Robert Chin lay his son to rest, $3,847 raised of $8,000 goal. My hands were trembling as I scrolled through the donations. $23 from Emma K. with the message, so sorry for your loss. $50 from Portland Community College Alumni Association. $100 from the Martinez family with a note that said Alex shoveled our driveway every winter without being asked. This is the least we can do. Mrs. Martinez. My landlord. The same Mrs. Martinez who would be evicting me in 3 days when I couldn't make rent because my father had convinced my employer I was dead. I took screenshots of everything, adding them to the growing folder on my desktop labeled Evidence, Dad's Fraud. The folder was already at 47 files. My laptop chimed with a Skype call from Marcus Webb, my coworker at Morrison and Associates. I accepted it, and his face filled the screen, red-eyed and holding what looked like a beard despite it being 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Jesus Christ, Alex. You're really alive. Really alive, I confirmed. Marcus, please tell me you didn't donate to anything. He had the decency to look embarrassed. The office pooled together $600. Janet was organizing it. We were going to send flowers too, but your dad specifically requested donations instead. Of course he did. I rubbed my temples. Marcus, I need you to do me a favor. Can you record a video of me, right now, with today's newspaper? I need proof of life with a timestamp. Already on it, man. I started recording the second you answered. He held up his phone. This is so fucked up. How did he even get your employment information? That was the question that had been nagging at me all day. I'd never given my father my work address or phone number. I've been careful about that since the incident 2 years ago when he'd shown up at my previous job and caused a scene in the lobby, demanding to know why I wasn't returning his calls. I think he hired someone, I said slowly. Remember when I mentioned that private investigator a few months ago? The guy who was taking pictures of my apartment building? The one with the black Honda? Same one. I bet he didn't just get photos. I bet he got employment records, bank information, everything. The thought made me nauseous. Marcus, I need you to check something for me. Can you access the visitor log in our lobby? Probably. Why? Check if anyone signed in asking about me in the past few months. Anyone claiming to be family, or from my insurance company, or conducting some kind of survey. Marcus was already typing on his laptop. Give me a second, okay, here we go. Visitor logs for the past 6 months. His face changed. Oh shit, Alex. November 2nd. 2 weeks ago. Someone named David Mitchell signed in, claimed he was from your bank investigating identity theft. Said he needed to verify your employment status for fraud protection. Did he meet with anyone? Yeah, Janet saw him. It says here she confirmed your employment dates, salary range, and direct deposit information. Marcus looked sick. She thought she was helping you. The pieces were clicking into place. November 2nd was exactly 2 weeks before my paycheck stopped. My father, or someone working for him, had spent weeks gathering the information needed to make his death claim convincing. This wasn't a spontaneous act of revenge. This was premeditated. My phone buzzed with a call from a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was local. Alex Chen. Speaking. This is Detective Patricia Moreno with Portland Police. I understand you'd like to report your own death as fraudulent. I actually laughed, despite everything. That's probably the weirdest sentence you've said today. You'd be surprised. Can you come down to the station? We've received multiple reports about this situation. Your employer filed a complaint about fraud, and a funeral home reported potential identity theft. We need to document everything properly. I'll be there in an hour. As I gathered my identification documents, my laptop chimed with another email notification. This one made my blood freeze. The sender was my own email address. The subject line read, "Final message from Alex Chen." With shaking hands, I opened it. It was sent to every contact in my email list, hundreds of people. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I wanted to say goodbye properly, but I ran out of time. Dad, I'm sorry we fought. I love you. Please take care of my things. Alex. He'd hacked my email account. He was sending goodbye messages as me. I stared at the email timestamp, sent 23 minutes ago, while I was on the phone with Detective Moreno. He was actively impersonating me, in real time, while I was literally talking to police about his fraud. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through my sent folder. There were dozens of emails I hadn't written, all sent within the past hour. To my college advisor, thank you for believing in me. I wish things had turned out differently. To my ex-girlfriend Emma, I never stopped loving you. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to say it. To Mrs. Martinez, please don't blame yourself for the eviction notice. You were just doing your job. Eviction notice? I frantically checked my regular inbox. There it was, a notice to quit premises, dated this morning. Mrs. Martinez was evicting me immediately due to reports of tenants' death and concern for public health and safety. He'd convinced my landlord I was dead too. My phone rang. Sarah again. Alex, what the hell is happening? I just got an email from you that sounds like a suicide note. Are you okay? Should I call someone? Sarah, I didn't send that email. He hacked my account. How many people are calling you? Everyone. Your cousin Mark is driving down from Seattle. Mrs. Chen from your old neighborhood is organizing a prayer circle. Alex, people think you're saying goodbye before you know. Before I killed myself. He wasn't just claiming I died in an accident anymore. The final message emails were making people think I was planning to hurt myself, that I was currently in danger. My phone started buzzing with call after call. I declined them all and immediately changed my email password, but the damage was done. My inbox was flooding with panicked responses. Alex, please don't do anything rash. We can talk through whatever you're going through. Professor Williams. I'm coming over right now. Don't answer the door for anyone else. Marcus. Sweetie, your father is beside himself with worry. He's driving around looking for you. Please call him. Aunt Linda. Driving around looking for me. The thought made my skin crawl. I grabbed my laptop and documents, stuffing everything into a backpack. If he was actively searching for me, I needed to get out of my apartment. As I headed for the door, I heard footsteps on the stairs outside, heavy, familiar footsteps I'd been trained to recognize since childhood. The particular way he took the steps 2 at a time when he was angry. I froze, hand on the doorknob. Alex? Alex, I know you're in there. His voice was muffled through the door, but I could hear the fake concern layered over barely controlled rage. Son, people are worried about you. Your friend Sarah called me crying. I pressed myself against the wall beside the door, not daring to breathe. The emails you sent. Alex, if you're planning to hurt yourself, we can get help. But you need to open this door right now. 3 sharp knocks, then the doorknob rattled. He was trying the handle. I talked to Mrs. Martinez. She gave me the spare key for wellness check purposes. I'm coming in. The sound of metal scraping in the lock made my heart hammer against my ribs. I had maybe 30 seconds before he got the door open. My apartment was on the third floor, no fire escape, no balcony. But there was the bathroom window that opened onto the roof of the building's storage shed. I heard the lock click just as I shut the bathroom door behind me. The window was painted shut, but I managed to force it open with a letter opener from my desk. The storage shed roof was about a 6-foot drop. Alex? His voice was in my living room now. Alex, your laptop's gone. Where are you? I climbed through the window as quietly as possible and dropped onto the shed roof just as I heard him try the bathroom door. From there, I could climb down the fire ladder on the side of the building. My phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number he'd used months ago. Running away just proves you're unstable. I'm trying to help you. I was 3 blocks away, heading toward the police station, when my phone rang. Detective Moreno. Mr. Chen, we need you to come in immediately. We've received multiple calls reporting that you're in crisis and may be planning to harm yourself. Are you in a safe location? I'm walking to the station now. Detective, he was just at my apartment. He has a key. He's escalating. We'll send a unit to do a welfare check and secure the location. How far out are you? 10 minutes. As I hung up, I realized the full scope of what he'd done. By sending those fake goodbye emails, he'd created a situation where everyone, police, family, friends, would be focused on preventing me from hurting myself instead of investigating his fraud. He'd turned my own resurrection into evidence of a mental health crisis. The police station lobby felt surreal. Detective Moreno was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who looked like she'd seen everything, but even she seemed baffled by my situation. In 15 years of police work, I've never had someone come in to report their own fraudulent death, she said, leading me to an interview room. Especially not while the perpetrator is actively impersonating them online. I pulled out my laptop and showed her the fake emails. He sent these 20 minutes apart. Look at the timestamps. He was in my apartment trying to get me to open the door while simultaneously sending messages as me to make people think I was having a breakdown. Detective Moreno studied the screen. These are sophisticated. He's not just copying your writing style, he's referencing specific relationships and events that would be convincing to people who know you. He's been monitoring my communications for months. Probably has access to old emails, text messages, social media history. I opened the evidence folder on my desktop. Detective, this goes way beyond the fake death certificate. He's running multiple fundraisers, convinced my employer to stop my paychecks, got my landlord to file eviction papers. We're looking at identity theft, wire fraud, mail fraud. Mr. Chen. She held up a hand. I need you to slow down. We're going to document everything, but first I need to understand the timeline. When did you last have direct contact with your father? July 18th. I have the text message. I pulled up my phone screenshots. I told him explicitly not to contact me again. Radio silence until my paycheck disappeared. Detective Moreno was taking notes when Officer Bradley knocked on the door. Detective? We've got a situation. Robert Chen is in the lobby demanding to see his son. Says he's here for a wellness check. My blood turned to ice. He followed me here. He claims you called him threatening to hurt yourself, then hung up. Says he tracked your phone's GPS location out of concern for your safety. Detective Moreno looked at me carefully. Did you call your father today? I haven't called him in 4 months. I don't even have his current number. I pulled up my call log. Look, no outgoing calls to any number registered to Robert Chen. Officer Bradley looked uncomfortable. Detective, he's pretty convincing. He's got photos of the son, knows personal details. Says the kid's been struggling with depression since losing his job. I didn't lose my job, I said. He got me fired by convincing them I was dead. Detective Moreno stood up. Bring him back to interview room 2. Don't mention that his son is here. I want to hear his story separately. Through the thin walls, I could hear my father's voice in the next room. The same voice that had read me bedtime stories when I was 6, taught me to ride a bike at 8, and spent the last 5 years systematically destroying my peace of mind. Found a suicide note on his computer, he was saying. Well, not exactly a note. More like he'd been researching methods. I'm terrified, detective. He's been spiraling since he got fired last month. I grabbed Detective Moreno's arm. That's a lie. I was never fired. My employment records will prove that. She nodded, then spoke into her radio. I need someone to call Morrison and Associates immediately. Verify Alexander Chen's current employment status. My father's voice continued through the wall. His mother died when he was 12. He's never gotten over it. The anniversary is next week, November 22nd. He always gets worse this time of year. Even his lies contained enough truth to be believable. My mother had died when I was 12. The anniversary was next week. But I hadn't been getting worse, I'd been getting better. Healthier. Stronger. Until today. Detective, I whispered, he's setting up an involuntary psychiatric hold. If he convinces you I'm mentally unstable, he can have me committed for 72 hours. That gives him 3 more days to cement this story, collect more donations, maybe even hold the fake funeral. Her eyes sharpened. Is that something he's threatened before? Not directly. But 2 years ago he told my cousin that I was clearly having a breakdown because I wouldn't let him co-sign my apartment lease. Last year he convinced my grandmother I was on drugs because I didn't come to his birthday party. Detective Moreno's radio crackled. Morrison and Associates confirms Alexander Chen is a current employee in good standing. Payroll was suspended November 15th following a reported death, but they've received no termination paperwork. My father had gone quiet in the next room. Mr. Chen, Detective Moreno's voice came through the wall, there seems to be some confusion about your son's employment status. Well, he might have been lying to me about being fired. You know how kids are when they're ashamed. He probably didn't want to worry me. The adaptability was breathtaking. Caught in one lie, he seamlessly pivoted to another. Detective Moreno came back into my room. Your father just admitted he may have been mistaken about your employment status. Now he's claiming you lied to him about being fired because you were ashamed. He's going to keep adjusting his story every time you catch him, I said. But he can't explain the fundraisers. He can't explain why he had my work information when I haven't given him my employment details in over 2 years. She was already pulling up the GoFundMe page on her computer. $4,200 raised in a Robert Chin Memorial Fund, she read aloud. Jesus Christ. My phone buzzed with a notification. The funeral home had sent me an email. Mr. Chen, we've received multiple calls from people wanting to attend Saturday's service. Current RSVP count is 847 people. Please contact us immediately regarding venue capacity. 847 people were planning to attend my funeral. I handed Detective Moreno my phone to show her the funeral home email. Her eyebrows shot up as she read the RSVP count. 800 people, she muttered. This is going to be a media circus. Before I could respond, Officer Bradley burst through the door without knocking. Detective, we've got a problem. Channel 12 News is setting up outside. Someone tipped them off about the miraculous resurrection story. My stomach dropped. No. No, no, no. Through the interview room's small window, I could see the distinctive white van with the news station logo. A reporter in a red blazer was already doing a sound check with her cameraman. Detective Moreno was on her radio immediately. I need units to establish a perimeter. No media contact with any parties involved until we sort this mess out. But it was too late. My phone started buzzing with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Text messages flooded in. Channel 8 News here, we'd love to interview you about your experience. Portland Tribune, can you comment on allegations of insurance fraud? BuzzFeed News, we're running a story about fake death scams, interested in sharing your story? Insurance fraud. I looked at Detective Moreno in panic. What insurance fraud? She was already typing furiously on her computer. Your father filed a life insurance claim this morning. Mutual Assurance Company, policy number. She squinted at her screen, a policy that was apparently opened in your name 3 months ago. I never opened a life insurance policy. $50,000 payout, with Robert Chen listed as sole beneficiary. Her face was grim. Mr. Chen, this just became a felony case. We're not talking about GoFundMe donations anymore. The door to interview room 2 slammed open. I could hear my father's voice, louder now, more agitated. I don't understand what's happening here. I came to help my son, and you're treating me like a criminal. Alex is clearly having some kind of psychotic break. Sir, please lower your voice, Officer Bradley's calm response carried through the wall. Don't tell me to lower my voice. That's my son in there, and he needs help, not interrogation. Detective Moreno looked at me. He doesn't know we've uncovered the insurance claim yet. I want to see his reaction when we confront him with it. She left me in the interview room with strict instructions not to use my phone or speak to anyone. Through the thin walls, I could hear her enter the room next door. Mr. Chen, I need to ask you about a life insurance policy for your son. Silence. A $50,000 policy through Mutual Assurance, opened September 15th of this year. You're listed as the beneficiary. More silence, then, Alex asked me to help him set that up. For financial planning purposes. Young people don't think about these things. According to the application, it was opened using Alexander's social security number and employment information, but the payments come from your bank account. Well, yes, I was helping him with the premiums. He's been having money trouble since his emotional problems started. I pressed my ear to the wall. Even through the barrier, I could hear the shift in his voice. The smooth confidence was cracking. Mr. Chen, taking out a life insurance policy on another adult without their knowledge is fraud. Filing a claim on that policy using false death reports is a federal crime. I think I need to call my lawyer. The words hung in the air like a confession. My father, who had spent my entire childhood lecturing me about honesty, who had punished me for the smallest lies, was asking for a lawyer. My phone buzzed with a call from Aunt Linda. I ignored it, but the voicemail notification popped up immediately. Against my better judgment, I listened to it. Alex, honey, I just saw the news. Channel 12 is saying your father filed fraudulent insurance claims. They're calling it the biggest fake death scam in Oregon history. Your grandmother is in the hospital, the shock of thinking you were dead, then finding out you weren't, then seeing this on TV, her heart couldn't take it. We're at Providence Medical Center. Room 314. Please come. Grandmother was in the hospital because of this. Because my father's lies had put an 84-year-old woman through the trauma of mourning her grandson, then the whiplash of discovering it was all fake, then the humiliation of seeing it broadcast on the evening news. I was staring at my phone when Detective Moreno returned, looking exhausted. He's not talking without a lawyer present. But Mr. Chen, we have enough evidence to arrest him on multiple charges. The question is whether you want to press charges. My grandmother is in the hospital, I said numbly. Her face softened. I heard. We can arrange police escort to the hospital if you need to see her. But I have to warn you, the media attention is going to follow you everywhere until this dies down. As if summoned by her words, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my own name. He was calling me from his phone, but somehow my name was showing up on the display. With Detective Moreno watching, I answered. Alex? My father's voice was strained, desperate. Alex, please, you have to tell them this is all a misunderstanding. How are you calling me? You're in police custody. They let me make a phone call. Son, please. I was trying to help you. When you didn't answer my calls for months, I got scared. I thought something had happened to you. So you decided to kill me yourself? Don't be dramatic. Look, this got out of hand, but we can fix it. Tell them you asked me to handle your life insurance. Tell them the death reports were just a miscommunication. The audacity was staggering. Even now, even caught red-handed with $50,000 in fraudulent insurance claims, he wanted me to lie for him. Dad, I said quietly, 847 people think they're coming to my funeral on Saturday. The silence on the phone stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Saturday? His voice was barely a whisper. 847 people, Dad. Mrs. Chen from our old neighborhood organized a prayer circle. My high school chemistry teacher drove down from Eugene. Marcus took bereavement leave from work. I could feel Detective Moreno watching me carefully. Did you really think you could just call this off? Send out a group text saying "Oops, false alarm"? I never meant for it to go this far. You filed a $50,000 life insurance claim this morning. You've collected over $4,000 in donations. You planned a funeral and let people book flights to attend it. My voice was getting louder despite myself. At what point exactly were you going to let everyone know I was alive? Alex, you're not thinking clearly. The stress of this situation. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. Detective Moreno raised an eyebrow. Feel better? Actually, yes. And surprisingly, I did. For the first time in years, I'd hung up on him without that familiar knot of guilt in my stomach. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Channel 8 just showed up at Morrison and Associates. Janet's doing interviews about the death hoax that shocked Portland. This is insane. Detective Moreno's radio crackled. We've got more media units arriving. Channel 6, Fox 12, and someone from CNN is asking about sending a crew. CNN. This was spiraling into national news. Detective, I need to get to the hospital to see my grandmother. Can we finish this tomorrow? We'll need your formal statement, but yes. Fair warning though, this case is going to take months to resolve. Your father's looking at federal charges for the insurance fraud, mail fraud for the obituary postings, wire fraud for the electronic donations, and identity theft. We're talking about serious prison time. Prison time. The word should have felt like victory, but instead they sat heavy in my chest. Despite everything, despite the calculated cruelty of what he'd done, he was still my father. Officer Bradley appeared in the doorway. Detective, the funeral home called. They need to know what to do about Saturday. They've got people calling from 6 different states asking about parking, hotels, meal arrangements. Someone's organizing buses from your old high school. Jesus, I muttered. How do you tell 800 people that a funeral is canceled because the dead person is actually fine? Very carefully, Detective Moreno said. We'll work with the funeral home on messaging. This needs to be handled delicately to avoid panic or backlash against your family. My phone rang, cousin Mark calling from Seattle. Alex. Thank God you're okay. I'm halfway to Portland with Emma and the kids. We were going to surprise everyone by driving through the night. His voice was thick with relief and exhaustion. But dude, what the hell is happening? The news is saying Uncle Robert committed insurance fraud. Mark, where are you right now? Just hit Centralia. About 2 hours out. Turn around. Go home. There's no funeral tomorrow, obviously, but the media circus is insane. You don't want the kids to see this. The kids made cards for Uncle Robert. They've been crying all day thinking their cousin was gone. Mark's voice hardened. Alex, Emma keeps asking why Uncle Robert would lie about something like this. What am I supposed to tell her? I looked at Detective Moreno, who nodded. Tell her the truth, Mark. Tell her that Grandpa got sick in his head and did something very bad. And tell her that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes so big that other grown-ups have to help fix them. Are you pressing charges? The question I've been avoiding all day. Yeah. I think I have to. After Mark hung up, I sat in the quiet interview room staring at my reflection in the dark window. Outside, I could see the glow of camera lights and news vans. My phone showed 43 missed calls and over 200 unread text messages. Detective Moreno knocked softly. Ready to go see your grandmother? We've got a back exit. The back exit of the police station led to an alley where Officer Martinez was waiting with an unmarked car. As we drove toward Providence Medical Center, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I turned off notifications, but the screen kept lighting up like a strobe light. Don't look at it, Detective Moreno advised from the passenger seat. Social media is probably a nightmare right now. But curiosity won. I opened Twitter and immediately regretted it. Hashtag fake death scam was trending in Portland. Someone had created a timeline of events with screenshots of the obituary, the fundraisers, and my father's Facebook posts. The comments ranged from sympathy to outrage to dark humor. Imagine showing up to your own funeral like, surprise. This is why I have trust issues. Plot twist, the son is actually dead and this is an elaborate cover-up. Worse were the GoFundMe updates. People were demanding refunds, but others were arguing that my father was clearly mentally ill and deserved compassion. The comment sections had evolved into political arguments about mental health, family dysfunction, and insurance fraud. Someone had found my college Facebook photos and created a meme comparing my graduation picture to my obituary photo. It had been shared 12,000 times in 3 hours. Mr. Chen, Officer Martinez caught my eye in the rearview mirror. Fair warning, there are news vans at the hospital too. Someone leaked that your grandmother was admitted. My stomach dropped. They're harassing an 84-year-old woman. Hospital security is handling it, but you'll need to go through the emergency entrance. We've coordinated with their staff. Providence Medical Center's ER entrance was thankfully quiet. A security guard named Tom escorted us through a maze of hallways to avoid the main lobby, where Detective Moreno said at least 6 reporters were camped out. Room 314 was packed. Aunt Linda, Cousin Mark, who'd apparently ignored my advice about turning around, Uncle Steve, and 3 people I didn't immediately recognize. Everyone went silent when I walked in. Grandmother looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, connected to monitors that beeped steadily. Her eyes were closed, but she stirred when Linda whispered, "Alex is here." Alexandra? Her voice was paper-thin. She'd called me Alexandra since I was small, never quite remembering that it wasn't my name. "I'm here, Grandma." Her eyes opened, focusing on my face with effort. "They said you were gone. Then they said you weren't. Then the television." She trailed off, looking confused and fragile. "I'm fine. I'm completely fine. Dad made a mistake." "A mistake?" Uncle Steve's voice was sharp. He was Linda's husband, never one to sugarcoat things. Alex, they're saying he collected $28,000 in fraudulent donations. The insurance claim alone was $50,000. That's not a mistake, that's premeditated fraud. 28,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $28,000. Linda nodded grimly. It was on the 6 o'clock news. Channel 12 did a breakdown of all the fundraisers. The GoFundMe, the Venmo account, the Facebook donation drive, something called a Fundly campaign, and people were sending checks directly to his address. I sank into the chair beside grandmother's bed. $28,000 meant hundreds of people had opened their wallets for my fake death. Co-workers, neighbors, strangers who'd seen the story shared online. There's more, Mark said quietly. The life insurance company issued a statement. Apparently Dad has been making payments on that policy for 3 months, but he also took out a separate accidental death policy last month. If they'd ruled your fake accident as company negligence or vehicular homicide, the payout would have been $200,000. $200,000. This wasn't grief-driven desperation or a cry for attention. This was a calculated financial scheme that had been in planning for months. My phone rang. Detective Moreno stepped into the hallway to take the call, but her voice carried back into the room. What do you mean there's a second obituary? She returned looking grim. Mr. Chen, your father apparently posted another death notice this afternoon. This one claims you died by drowning at Crater Lake National Park. It's running in the Bend Bulletin and 3 other regional newspapers. The room went completely silent except for the steady beeping of grandmother's heart monitor. I stared at Detective Moreno, trying to process what she just said. A second obituary? My voice came out as a whisper. Posted at 3:47 p.m. today in the Bend Bulletin, Redmond Spokesman, and 2 smaller papers in Central Oregon. This one claims you drowned during a hiking accident at Crater Lake yesterday. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through something. He used a different photo, looks like it was taken from your LinkedIn profile. Uncle Steve was shaking his head slowly. Why would he post a second one? Everyone already knows about the car accident story. Because the first story is falling apart, I said, the pieces clicking together in my mind. The car accident on Highway 26 was too specific, too easy to verify. But Crater Lake. That's federal park land, different jurisdiction, harder to immediately fact-check. Detective Moreno nodded. He's trying to create confusion. Multiple conflicting stories make it harder for media and authorities to nail down a timeline. Plus, drowning accidents often delay body recovery, which would explain why there's no body to examine. Linda was staring at her phone, her face pale. The Crater Lake story is already being shared on Facebook. People are commenting that they're confused about which version is true. Some are saying maybe there were 2 accidents, or maybe Alex survived the first one but died in the second. My phone started ringing. The caller ID showed Bend Bulletin Newsroom. Don't answer that, Detective Moreno advised. We need to coordinate media response through official channels. But it was too late, the story was spreading faster than we could contain it. Mark showed me his phone screen where a Facebook group called Justice for Alex Chen had already gained 400 members. People were posting both obituaries, trying to piece together which story was real. Grandmother stirred in her bed. Alexandra, I don't understand. How many times did you die? The innocent confusion in her voice broke something in my chest. Here was an 84-year-old woman who'd already buried her husband, 2 siblings, and countless friends, now being forced to navigate the psychological maze my father had created. Just once, Grandma. But I didn't really die. Dad made it up. But why would Robert make up such a terrible thing? It was the question everyone kept asking, and I still didn't have an answer that made sense. Mental illness? Greed? Pure malice? Maybe it was all 3. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown Oregon number. Saw your drowning story in the Bend paper. I was at Crater Lake yesterday and didn't see any emergency vehicles. Something's fishy. Park Ranger Jennifer Mills. I showed the message to Detective Moreno. She immediately forwarded it to someone, then looked at me seriously. This is good for our case, but it's also creating a bigger problem. We now have federal park rangers involved, multiple newspaper corrections to coordinate, and people are starting to investigate the stories independently. What does that mean? It means your father has probably just upgraded his charges from state fraud to federal fraud. Crater Lake is a national park. Making false reports that could trigger federal emergency response is a federal crime. Uncle Steve was doing something on his laptop. The insurance company just released another statement. They're launching a formal investigation into both policies and have frozen all claims pending the outcome of the criminal case. Both policies? Apparently there's now a third policy we didn't know about. Accidental drowning coverage through a different company, also opened last month. Steve's voice was getting angrier. Alex, this man spent months planning your death. This wasn't some impulsive reaction to you cutting contact. The scope of it was staggering. 3 insurance policies, 2 different death scenarios, dozens of fundraising accounts, and now false reports to federal agencies. My father hadn't just faked my death, he'd created an entire alternate reality where I died multiple times in multiple ways. Detective, I said slowly, how long do federal fraud investigations usually take? Complex cases like this? Could be a year or more before it goes to trial. A year. Meaning I'd be living in the shadow of my own fake death for at least 12 months, while lawyers and investigators picked apart every detail of my father's scheme. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID made my blood run cold. Dad, mobile. He was calling from a different phone, somehow still making it show up under his contact name in my phone. I stared at the caller ID, my hands trembling. How is he calling me? He's supposed to be in custody. Detective Moreno grabbed my phone, checking the display. He made bail an hour ago. His lawyer posted it while we were en route to the hospital. Bail? For federal fraud charges. The initial charges were state level. Federal charges take longer to file. She looked frustrated. His lawyer argued he wasn't a flight risk because of his community ties and his concern for his son's welfare. The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Same display, Dad, mobile. This time I answered, putting it on speaker so Detective Moreno could hear. Alex, thank God. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Son, listen to me carefully. The situation has gotten out of control, but I have a solution. Meet me at Riverside Methodist Church in 1 hour. Just you and me. The church where he'd planned my funeral. Absolutely not. Alex, there are things you don't understand. The insurance money, I was going to give it all to you once this blew over. It was supposed to be a nest egg for your future. The lie was so audacious it left me speechless. Uncle Steve made a disgusted sound from across the room. I've been watching the news, my father continued when I didn't respond. People are calling me a monster. But everything I did was to protect you. You weren't answering my calls, you changed your number, I thought something terrible had happened. So you decided to make something terrible happen yourself. It was never supposed to go this far. The obituary was just to get your attention. Then people started donating money, and I thought, well, Alex could use this money for college loans, rent, a down payment on a house. I never asked for your help. You never asked for anything. That was the problem. His voice cracked, and for a moment he sounded genuinely emotional. You disappeared on me, Alex. My own son became a stranger. Do you know what that feels like? Grandmother was watching this conversation with wide, frightened eyes. The heart monitor's beeping had gotten faster. Mr. Chen, Detective Moreno interrupted, you're speaking to someone who's represented by counsel. This conversation needs to end. I'm represented by counsel. I whispered to her. You are now, she whispered back, then spoke into the phone, any further contact should go through the district attorney's office. Detective, please. I just want to see my son. One conversation to clear this up. Sir, you've been charged with multiple felonies. There will be no unsupervised contact. The line went quiet for a moment. When my father spoke again, his voice had changed, colder, more calculated. Alex, I hope you're proud of yourself. Your grandmother is in the hospital because of the stress you've caused this family. Your cousin Mark drove 6 hours with his children to attend your funeral. Mrs. Martinez from your building donated her grocery money because she thought you were dead. He was doing it again, twisting reality to make me the villain in his story. All of this could have been avoided if you just answered one phone call. But you had to be stubborn. You had to cut your own father out of your life like I was some kind of criminal. You are a criminal, I said quietly. You committed multiple felonies. I made mistakes trying to reconnect with my son. The court will understand that. Detective Moreno ended the call and immediately radioed for additional security at the hospital. We're moving you to a safe location tonight. He's escalating again. My phone buzzed with a news alert, breaking, father in fake death hoax released on $25,000 bail, claims fraud was misguided attempt to help son. $25,000 bail. Someone had paid $25,000 to get him released, which meant he had support. Resources. Maybe other people who believed his version of events. Who posted his bail? I asked Detective Moreno. She was already making calls to find out. The answer came back within minutes, and it made my stomach drop. His employer. Pinnacle Financial Services. Apparently he's been working there for 8 years, and his supervisor vouched for his character. His employer had just posted bail for someone charged with insurance fraud. Which meant either they didn't understand the charges, or they believed his story about trying to help his troubled son. Either way, my father was free, angry, and had just demonstrated that he still had allies. This was far from over. My phone buzzed with an incoming call at 11:47 p.m. I was lying on a cot in what Detective Moreno had called a safe room at the downtown precinct, basically a holding cell they used for witnesses who needed protection. The caller ID showed my own name again. I'd blocked 17 different numbers in the past 3 hours, but he kept calling from new ones. This time I let it go to voicemail, then immediately regretted it when I saw the transcript. Alex, I'm standing outside your apartment building. Mrs. Martinez let me in. I'm packing up your belongings since you're clearly not coming home tonight. Don't worry, I'll make sure your things are safe. He was in my apartment. Going through my stuff. I called Detective Moreno immediately. He's in my apartment right now. He says Mrs. Martinez let him in. On my way, she said. Do not leave that room. But 20 minutes later, she called back with news that made everything worse. He's gone. But Alex, he left something for you. What kind of something? A life insurance check. Made out to you, signed over from his claim. $25,000, sitting on your kitchen counter with a note that says, this was always meant for you. I stared at the ceiling of the safe room, trying to process this latest move. He'd left me money. Actual money from his fraudulent insurance claim, positioned as a gift. It's evidence tampering, I said. He's trying to make it look like I was in on it. That's exactly what he's doing. The note is handwritten, but it's addressed to my son Alex and references our plan to secure your financial future. If someone found that check and note without context, it would look like you were a willing participant. My phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number he'd been using. The check is just the beginning. There's more money in account number 4478 at Columbia Credit Union. Password is your mother's maiden name. I've been saving for years. Another account. More money I'd never asked for, never knew about. Detective, he's claiming there's another bank account with my mother's maiden name as the password. This feels like he's setting up some kind of long-term financial trap. We'll investigate it in the morning. Right now, I need you to understand something important. His lawyer filed a motion this evening claiming you've been financially dependent on your father for months, that the insurance policies were opened with your knowledge and consent. That's insane. I have my own job, my own apartment. Had. Alex, Mrs. Martinez served you with final eviction papers tonight. You officially have to be out of the apartment by Sunday, which is tomorrow. Sunday. In all the chaos, I'd lost track of what day it was. Tomorrow was Sunday, which meant people were still planning to show up at Riverside Methodist Church for my funeral. Detective, what's happening with the funeral situation? That's complicated. We contacted the church yesterday, but apparently your father never actually booked the venue. He just posted about it on social media. The church has no record of any service planned. So where were 800 people supposed to gather? The church parking lot, apparently. His plan seems to have been to hold some kind of informal memorial service outdoors, then ask for donations to cover unexpected expenses. Even his fake funeral was a scam designed to extract money from mourners. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed Riverside Methodist Church. Mr. Chin. This is Pastor Williams from Riverside Methodist. I'm calling because we have a very unusual situation. About 30 people have shown up here tonight asking about your funeral tomorrow. They're camping in our parking lot. People were already there. Actually camping out to attend my fake funeral. Pastor Williams, there is no funeral. I'm not dead. This whole thing is a fraud case. Yes, I've been following the news. But these people. Mr. Chen, they've driven from out of state. Some of them seem to be elderly family members who aren't fully understanding the situation. There's a woman here who says she's your great-aunt from Montana. She's 87 years old and insists she needs to pay respects to little Alexander. Great-aunt Dorothy. I hadn't seen her since I was 12, but she'd driven from Montana because she thought I was dead. One gentleman says he was your Little League coach 15 years ago. He brought a team photo he wanted to place on your casket. Pastor Williams sounded exhausted. Mr. Chen, I don't know how to handle this. These people are grieving for you, but you're alive, but they don't all seem to understand that, and your father isn't here to explain anything. Where is my father? That's what everyone keeps asking. They expected him to be here organizing things, but no one's seen him since this afternoon. Detective Moreno's radio crackled in the background. I heard her answer, then her face went pale. Mr. Chen, she said, we need to go. Now. What's happening? Your father just checked into the same hospital where your grandmother is staying. He's claiming chest pains and saying the stress of losing his son is causing heart problems. The manipulation was evolving in real time. Now he was positioning himself as a victim too, a grieving father whose health was failing from the trauma of my death and resurrection. He's going to try to see grandmother, isn't he? That's what I'm afraid of. And hospital security can't stop family visits unless we have a restraining order, which we don't. As we rushed out of the precinct toward the hospital, my phone buzzed with one final text, room 408. Come alone, or grandma learns some very upsetting things about what you put this family through. He was threatening my hospitalized grandmother to force a meeting. This wasn't just fraud anymore. This was extortion. The hospital corridor felt like a tunnel closing in around me as Detective Moreno and I rushed toward room 408. My phone had been buzzing non-stop, reporters, family members, people from the church parking lot, but I'd stopped looking at it after the 15th missed call. Security cameras show he entered your grandmother's room 12 minutes ago, Officer Martinez radioed to Detective Moreno. Hospital staff tried to intervene, but he claimed family emergency privileges. When we reached room 314, I could hear voices through the door, my father's smooth, practiced tone mixing with grandmother's confused responses. Detective Moreno held up a hand, indicating I should wait, then cracked the door open just enough to listen. The insurance money was always meant for Alex's college fund, mother. You remember how worried I was about his financial situation. My father's voice carried that familiar note of manufactured sincerity. The problem is, Alex has been having some mental health struggles. The police have him convinced that I was trying to hurt him. But the television said. The television is sensationalizing everything. You know how the media works. They're making me look like a criminal when all I did was try to help my son. I pushed past Detective Moreno into the room. My father was sitting beside grandmother's bed, holding her hand, looking like the picture of a devoted son visiting his ailing mother. He'd changed clothes, gone was the rumpled shirt from the police station, replaced by a crisp button-down and tie. Even his hair was neatly combed. He looked like he was dressed for a job interview or a court appearance. Alex. Grandmother's face lit up with relief. Robert was just explaining everything. He says the doctors think you've been having episodes. Episodes? I looked at my father, who met my gaze with that same calm confidence I remembered from childhood arguments where he'd somehow make me apologize for things I hadn't done. Son, you look tired. Have you been sleeping? He stood up, moving toward me with his arms slightly extended, as if he wanted to embrace me. The stress of this misunderstanding has been hard on all of us. Misunderstanding? My voice came out higher than I intended. Dad, you filed 3 separate life insurance claims totaling $275,000. Grandmother's grip tightened on the bed rail. $275,000. My father's expression didn't change. Alex, you're confused about the numbers. The emotional trauma of the past few days. I saw the police reports. Mutual Assurance for $50,000, Pacific Life for $75,000, and Northwestern for $150,000. I pulled out my phone, showing Detective Moreno's documentation. Plus the $28,000 in fraudulent donations. Alex, please sit down. You're getting agitated. His voice took on that patronizing tone I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. Detective, I'm concerned about my son's mental state. These delusions about insurance amounts. Mr. Chen, Detective Moreno interrupted, stepping fully into the room. We have documentation of all 3 policies. Your signatures are on file with each company. For the first time, my father's composure cracked slightly. His jaw tightened, and I saw his hands clench into fists before he forced them to relax. I think there's been some confusion with the paperwork, he said carefully. I'll need to review everything with my attorney. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Pastor Williams. I answered it on speaker before Detective Moreno could stop me. Mr. Chen, we have a situation here. The crowd has grown to over 200 people, and they're demanding answers. Some are saying they want to hold the memorial service anyway, as a celebration of your life. Others are angry about the money they donated and want to confront your father directly. 200 people. At 10 o'clock at night. Waiting in a church parking lot for answers about my fake funeral. Also, Pastor Williams continued, Channel 12 News just arrived with a satellite truck. They're interviewing people in the crowd, and some of the things being said. Mr. Chen, you might want to see this. My father was staring at my phone with an expression I'd never seen before, something between panic and calculation, like he was running through options in his head at high speed. Pastor Williams, please ask everyone to go home, I said. There's no service tomorrow, and the situation is being handled by law enforcement. I tried that. But Mr. Chen, your great-aunt Dorothy has been telling people that your father called her personally yesterday asking for money to help with burial expenses. She says she wired him $800 this morning. $800 from an 87-year-old woman on a fixed income. I looked at my father, and for a moment, the mask slipped completely. What I saw underneath wasn't grief or mental illness or misguided love. It was cold, methodical greed. And the terrifying realization that this was only the beginning of what we'd uncover. My phone rang at 6:23 a.m. on Sunday morning. I'd managed maybe 2 hours of sleep in a safe room at the precinct, my mind racing through everything that had happened in the past 72 hours. The caller ID showed Portland Tribune, City Desk. Mr. Chen, this is Rebecca Martinez from the Portland Tribune. We've been investigating your father's financial history, and we've uncovered some concerning patterns. Can you comment on the Jeffrey Morrison case from 2019? Jeffrey Morrison. The name hit me like ice water. I don't know what you're talking about. Jeffrey Morrison, 34, reported missing from his job at Pacific Northwest Insurance in March 2019. Your father was listed as his emergency contact and collected a $10,000 company life insurance payout before Morrison turned up alive in California 3 weeks later. The case was quietly settled out of court. I sat up on the narrow cot, my heart hammering. You're saying my father has done this before? We're still investigating, but there appear to be at least 3 similar cases over the past 5 years. Always someone with limited family connections, always involving false death reports and insurance claims. The amounts were smaller, so they didn't trigger federal investigations. This wasn't an isolated incident born from desperation or mental illness. My father was a serial fraudster, and I was just his biggest score yet. Detective Moreno appeared in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee and looking like she hadn't slept either. You need to hear this, she said, setting a cup down and pulling out her phone. We got the warrant for his financial records an hour ago. She showed me a bank statement on her screen. The account balance made my stomach drop, $127,000. $127,000, I whispered. From 11 different fake death cases over the past 4 years. Jeffrey Morrison was just the tip of the iceberg. She scrolled through transaction records. Look at the dates. He's been systematically targeting people with limited family connections, filing false death reports, collecting insurance payouts and donations, then vanishing before anyone could investigate thoroughly. The Portland Tribune reporter was still on the phone. Mr. Chen, are you still there? I'm here. We're running the story in this morning's edition. Serial death hoaxer targets own son in largest scam yet. We wanted to give you a chance to comment. Through the small window of the safe room, I could see the sun rising over Portland. Somewhere out there, people were probably still gathered in the church parking lot, trying to make sense of attending a funeral for someone who wasn't dead. My father was in a hospital room, possibly faking chest pains to avoid questioning. And now I was learning that this had been his full-time job for years. How many victims? I asked Rebecca Martinez. That we can confirm. 14 people over 4 years. The total fraud amount is approaching $500,000. $500,000. 14 people who'd been declared dead by my father, their friends and families traumatized, their lives disrupted while he collected money from their fake deaths. Detective Moreno's radio crackled. Detective, we've got movement at Providence Medical. Robert Chen just checked himself out against medical advice. Hospital security says he left through the emergency exit and got into a blue Honda Civic. Blue Honda, I said numbly. That's the car the private investigator was driving. The one who was taking photos of my apartment. He never hired a private investigator, Detective Moreno realized. He was stalking you himself. My phone started buzzing with dozens of notifications as the Tribune story went live online. Within minutes, the local news stations were picking it up, and my phone began ringing constantly. But one call made my blood freeze, Riverside Methodist Church, showing up on the display. Pastor Williams. Mr. Chen, you need to get down here immediately. Your father just showed up with a casket. The church parking lot was chaos when we arrived. My father stood beside a gleaming black casket on a wheeled cart, wearing a full black suit and addressing the crowd of nearly 300 people like he was delivering a eulogy. My son Alex was taken from us too soon, his voice carried across the parking lot, amplified by a small microphone he'd somehow obtained. But his spirit lives on in the love he showed each of you. I couldn't move. Detective Moreno had to physically guide me out of the police car as I stared at the surreal scene, my own father conducting my funeral while I stood 50 feet away, very much alive. He rented the casket, she murmured, checking something on her phone. Hillside Funeral Home reported it stolen an hour ago. Pastor Williams rushed over to us, looking frantic. Mr. Chen, I've been trying to get him to stop, but people are crying, they're taking photos, someone's live streaming this on Facebook. My phone showed 847 people watching the live stream. In real time, I could see comments flooding in. This is so beautiful, Robert is such a devoted father. Wait, didn't the news say Alex is alive? I'm so confused, is this fake or real? Ladies and gentlemen, my father's voice boomed across the parking lot. I know there's been some confusion in the media about my son's condition. But I want you to hear the truth from me, his father. Detective Moreno was already radioing for backup, but I knew we were too late to stop whatever he was about to say. Alex has been struggling with severe mental illness for months, he continued, and the crowd went silent. The person the police claimed to have spoken with yesterday, that wasn't my son. That was someone having a complete psychological break from reality. My legs nearly gave out. He was claiming I was having a psychotic episode. That the person who'd been talking to police, reporters, and family wasn't really me. The Alex we loved, the Alex we're here to remember, died months ago when his illness took over. What remains is someone who looks like my son but believes elaborate conspiracy theories about insurance fraud and fake obituaries. Several people in the crowd were nodding. Others looked confused, pulling out phones to check news reports. Dad's trying to convince them I'm not really me, I said to Detective Moreno. That's his exit strategy, claim I'm mentally ill and that my accusations are delusions. But then something beautiful happened. Mrs. Martinez from my building stepped forward from the crowd. Robert, stop, she called out, her voice carrying clearly across the parking lot. I've known Alex for 2 years. I've seen him every morning taking out his recycling, every winter shoveling snow without being asked. The young man I talked to yesterday is the same Alex who helped me carry groceries and fix my broken doorbell. Other voices joined in. Alex called me personally about the GoFundMe refund, that was definitely him. I worked with Alex last month on the Morrison project. Same person, same voice. This is insane, Robert. Just stop. My father's composure was cracking as more people in the crowd began questioning his narrative. The Facebook live stream comments were shifting too. Wait, if Alex is mentally ill, why did Robert file insurance claims? Something doesn't add up here. This feels wrong. Detective Moreno stepped forward with a megaphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Detective Moreno with Portland Police. Robert Chen is currently facing federal charges for insurance fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. This gathering needs to disperse immediately. My father grabbed his microphone, his voice becoming desperate. Don't listen to them. Alex convinced the police he's innocent, but he's been planning this fraud for months. The insurance policies were his idea. Then why, I called out, finally finding my voice, why didn't you tell anyone I was alive when you filed the claims? The parking lot went completely silent. Even the Facebook live stream comments stopped. If I was your partner in insurance fraud, I continued, stepping closer, why did you let grandmother have a heart attack thinking I was dead? Why did you let Aunt Linda drive 8 hours from California? Why did you take $800 from an 87-year-old woman for my burial expenses? My father stared at me across the crowd, and I saw the exact moment he realized it was over. His shoulders sagged, the microphone dropped from his hand, and for the first time in my entire life, he had nothing to say. Detective Moreno moved in with handcuffs as the crowd began to disperse, many people stopping to apologize to me or ask how they could get their donations refunded. 6 months later, Robert Chen was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for running what prosecutors called the most elaborate fake death scheme in Oregon history. I kept my job at Morrison and Associates, moved to a new apartment, and slowly rebuilt relationships with family members who'd been caught in his web of lies. The best part? I never had to take another phone call from him again.